So yeah, I'm super late making this video, I know. Life showed up, energy dipped, and to be honest, I lost motivation to talk about Life by You when the cancellation dropped. But I don't want to leave this conversation unfinished. So today I'm putting a proper end to the Life by You series on this channel. Now, for those of you just discovering this space, my name is Michael, and you have landed in Sovereign Sandboxing, the YouTube channel where we build, play, and reflect on games that let us shape our own stories. And it's time to reflect, lay this project to rest, and really move on and learn from what we have come to experience from Life by You. But let me start by saying that Not Malcolm recently, well, not recently, but he posted a fantastic video actually covering the cancellation of Life by You. It summed up a lot of what I had already researched and echoed many of my own thoughts on the situation. I know it's an old video, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, and I've got the thumbnail of it just kind of popping up on screen now. He breaks it down with care and insight, and I feel like he did a lot of really good research that I'm not going to be bringing into this video, as I just kind of want to focus more on the different lessons that we can learn from Life by You. So yeah, let me add this voice to that conversation. Life by You's cancellation was a loss, not just for players, but for developers. And as someone who's been laid off more than once from a job, I know how traumatic that experience can be if we are going to take on that kind of perspective. I do think that it was a loss for players because it was taking away an option for a 3D life simulation game away from players. Just from what I can tell, due to mismanagement of whatever. Again, I'm not really going to analyze like why it was pulled or anything. I feel like we can speculate forever and ever. However, this kind of experience will certainly be something that people will refer to in the future and when looking at life simulation video games. But I just wanted to say that there were real people behind this project, behind the Life by You project, and seeing them blindsided and laid off with little to no warning as far as I understood the situation was honestly a little gut-wrenching. While I do think that Paradox Tectonic had a hand in how things unfolded, I ultimately place more responsibility on Paradox Interactive, the publisher in this case. It was their deputy CEO that made the final announcement. It didn't even come from the development team, and based on how publishing works in the video game industry, they really had the power to pull the plug on the project. The dev team, from what we can see, did everything that they were supposed to, and I would say even more. It just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough, and something wasn't computing. And like I said, we can spend countless hours trying to discuss and speculate on what that is, but ultimately, like, we're not going to know. I'm sure that there are NDAs out there that people have signed that will never have those reasons see the light of day. I mean, there was one dev who even posted on LinkedIn that their team had exceeded internal targets, got a green light, and then had the rug pulled just 2 weeks before launch of their early access. Like, they weren't even told why, as far as I understood from that post. They were just left in limbo for weeks. And so that kind of decision really doesn't come from the bottom. That's upper management, and it really leaves a bad taste in my mouth as a player. And let me say this clearly as well, like, laughing at developers losing their jobs or celebrating this cancellation, like, that's completely inappropriate. It's even low. I'll even go on the record saying, like, this isn't just a failed product. This was people's livelihoods. And from what I can tell from that post and from whatever else people have been sharing that were working on this project, it looks like they were being given green lights left and right. And if you were going to pull the plug on a project like that, you wouldn't necessarily give the developer team like green lights if you knew that it wasn't going to be something that was financially feasible, for example. So yeah, where does this leave us as the players? I know it's been like a year since I've even talked about it. It's been a year since the cancellation, but what are the takeaway values from this? That has always been a question that I have been seeking to answer. And with this video, I'm gonna share some possibilities here as to like what value we can take away from this. I think that for starters, I want to say that Life by You proved that ambitious life simulation games are indeed possible. Even with the weird character models and the early access marketing spin, the scope of this project was massive, and that is something that deserves credit. From the modding tools to the interactive careers to massive, well, seemingly massive city scale builds with 100-floor lots, for example, like this game was trying to deliver on ideas that we had only dreamed of. And let me say this, like, I know that 100-floor lot may not sound like much to you, but the Burj Khalifa has got like 140 floors to it. Like, it's a substantially tall building. Like, you could literally build in a fully operable or playable skyscraper in Life by You based on what we were being told here. And that was, you know, that has been something that I have been kind of stuck on as a Prime builder myself, but also something that I question very heavily as to whether or not that kind of gameplay is actually going to be feasible. We'll never know. But that kind of ambitious life simulation game is indeed possible. And I think that is the most important takeaway from this whole situation with Life by You. There was even a customizable dialogue system and plans to give players like region-based world building with complete freedom. And honestly, like, it was the first game since The Sims 3 that truly aimed to elevate what life sims could be. And it was really going to give us another open world concept, which is something that we really need at this point in the life simulation gaming corner. So it was certainly something that was ambitious, to say the very least. I did question it the entire way through, and maybe my questioning had drummed up a little too much excitement for the game. I'm not too sure, but I'm not going to have something presented in front of me and then question whether it's feasible or not, and not do that. It really is what I'm trying to say there. And yeah, Life by You was flawed, but it was also very different. It stood out, and it did make the industry take notice. So I was very impressed with that. But let's move on now to the topic of early access, because I think that Life by You has really fatigued the appeal of an early access of an early access game being marketed as something that players should look forward to. I'm kind of done giving it the benefit of the doubt, and after seeing Life by You get canceled like right before their early access launch, I can really no longer pretend that early access is some noble model. It feels more like a funding tactic, and one that works well for indie games like Bannerlords, for example, but it feels disingenuous coming from big publishers with AA budgets. For many players, early access is starting to read as a red flag, and I say this for myself as well, and I don't necessarily blame them. It's a trend that really only works when it's backed by transparency, trust, and clear communication, and Life by You didn't quite get there. Like, we got a lot of clear communication from the developers, but there was clearly something murky between the developers and the publishers here, which is how we got to where we got to. And it really revealed how risky it can be, like when developers promise too much and then they get cut off by their publishers. So it's early access is just really leaving a bad taste in my mouth personally, and I think that a lot of other players feel the same. Speaking of which, like, Paradox's recent history with like City Skylines 2 really tells me that their track record is in a steady decline. And yes, I will go on record saying that it is in a decline indeed. So going forward, like, I'm taking publishers more seriously when evaluating upcoming games. A good developer can really go only as far as when a publisher is calling the shots. And you know, just to back on City Skylines 2, like, recently they have delayed their Bridges and Piers expansion pack to the end of 2025. Like, we're looking at, I don't know, I probably will have to correct myself on screen here, but that is like a full year of a delay for an expansion pack project that players had paid for, mind you, when they did the pre-orders for City Skylines 2. And the reason why that has been is because City Skylines 2 has been riddled with bugs and glitches, and the gameplay just really wasn't ready to be publicly published and put out there. So yeah, City Skylines 2 being spearheaded by the same publisher, like, it's really it's another example of a franchise with a very, very engaged fan base, and the like the same publisher that was publishing Life by You is doing City Skylines 2, and they're also dropping the ball there. So, you've already got a game that players are playing and are very invested in, and yet the ball is being dropped here too. And so it just it makes us question why. It feels like it would have been a slam dunk to have like an entire franchise worth of City Skylines 2 expansion packs out by, the year after it has been published. Now, I don't expect that they would have a whole bunch of expansion packs published by then, directly a year after, but they should be very well on their way, because City Skylines 1 was a very expansive franchise in of itself, and they've even added DLC content to City Skylines 1. But yeah, with City Skylines 2, there's just something going on there that just doesn't feel clean. And yeah, that's something that I question heavily, and I see as a pattern now between Life by You and City Skylines 2. But I totally got a little off topic here. Let me refocus. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about other life simulation games on the horizon. Of course, there's Inzoi, and honestly, it's had mixed reviews, but honestly, I think there is room for it to grow into itself. I'm not exactly getting No Man's Sky energy from it. It's off to a very rough start, but it could really grow into a long-term vision for that particular video game. However, there are legal constraints, especially around the LGBTQ representation in South Korea, that might limit how far it can go globally. So it might not actually be that answer to The Sims that appeals to specific Sims players, but it's those kind of limitations that really do alienate itself from that wider audience. So it just might not be the success that people are thinking it could be. And for the time being, I am placing Inzoi in the let's wait and see category, as the game does feel very shallow based on reviews and playthroughs that I have seen. Full record, I haven't played this video game myself, so I don't know firsthand what that experience is like, but just kind of seeing how, just watching playthroughs and everything, it does feel a little shallow to me, but I do think that there is potential there for it to grow into itself. Again, the legal constraints in South Korea really do limit it from reaching a wider audience, and I think that that's going to be a really huge detriment to Inzoi's success is the legal constraints that they are facing. Now, I am mentioning that there are legal constraints in South Korea regarding the development of games, especially when it comes around to LGBTQ topics, and this is not meant to come across as a criticism on that country, if that doesn't sound weird enough, as it is, as every country is going to have their own laws and regulations. It's just that when your gaming development office is based in that country, your hands are kind of tied as a developer as to what you can publish legally. So it just might be the right product, the right marketing model, the right game engine, but perhaps even the wrong place that it's being developed in, and that might be the case with Inzoi. But again, we'll have to wait and see for that. There's nothing stopping them from releasing international versions if we really want to go down that route. I believe that it is possible to get an international version developed outside of South Korea. That might be a way around it. Again, this is a little above my pay grade here, but I just wanted to bring that topic into discussion because it is something that I do think is going to significantly impact how audiences perceive Inzoi and whether or not it is the video game that is right for them. And right now, with the gameplay itself, it is feeling a little shallow for me. So I'm not entirely impressed, but they've got a game into players' hands, which is, a lot more than what that Life by You was able to achieve at this point. But yeah, it's something that I'm waiting and seeing about for Inzoi. So it's not completely off my list, but we'll just kind of see how that evolves and how it develops. Eventually, we'll have to call an ace, or a spade, I suppose. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Paralives, actually. So Paralives is one that's still holding strong for a 2025 early access version. And to be honest, like, I am hopeful despite it being an early access version. It has a grassroots beginning and a really tight-knit dev team, and Paralives is focused on modding and creative tools, and with the artistic direction they chose, feels very strong to me, it feels very intentional to me. If they deliver like what they promised in the early access version, I think it could become a series favorite for the community and the ever so fabled Sims killer that the life simulation gaming community has been fantasizing about. I think that if anybody can deliver that blow, it could be Paralives at this point. But again, like, I'm remaining cautious but hopeful for Paralives, much like I felt the same towards Life by You. And you know, I have to be honest, at this point, the life simulation community is a little fatigued. Players are tired of being hyped up only to be let down by subpar life simulation games. And when it comes to Paralives early access rumblings, like, the only thing that's really giving me some hope is that they haven't partnered with a big time publisher and that they have kept it very indie, which is very smart and something that is very natural for early access versions to appear with. So I'm remaining hopeful with Paralives. Again, I'm approaching that hope with a lot of caution and a lot of with a lot of caution and a lot of discernment with Paralives, although that is the one that I think that I will be looking out for as opposed to Inzoi. So what have we learned from this whole experience with Life by You? It's been a year out, and I think that, well, I know that the dust has been settled for quite a bit. It's just that my life got a little crazy during that time, and I just couldn't find the motivation to do the video. But anyways, what I think that we have learned from this whole experience is that solid human character design matters now more than ever. I don't think that the life simulation gaming community will ever again find patience for mediocre sim graphics. I also think that another important learning point here is that ambitious projects are indeed doable, but only if they are backed by trust and clear communication. And that the technology exists for ambitious life simulation games to exist. I think that early access is a gamble, which is another learning point from this experience here that I'm walking away with, at least, and that more players are indeed calling it out. I'm really starting to roll my eyes whenever a developer or a publisher or whatever is releasing an early access version. It's just like, make the damn game. It's like, why go through that whole song and dance with the early access? It's starting to like life simulation gamers in particular are fatigued by being let down and all that. So early access is indeed a gamble at this point, and I really can't see it being a successful model unless it's particularly backed by an indie game, which again is why I have some hope for Paralives. But early access for any other life simulation game that's coming out, unless you're an indie developer that is like not associated with a publisher, I'd almost say don't even bother. But that's unprofessional advice. That's just an opinion. I also think that something else that we have learned from the Life by You's death is that modding support isn't just optional anymore. It is actually expected. And when you look at a life simulation game like Paralives and The Sims and even Inzoi, custom content is going to be paramount to the success and to the continued engagement of your life simulation game. And if your players don't have the ability to at least create their own hairs, because we all know that that is the most popular custom content piece out there, then your game is going to start flatlining. And the modding support now isn't just optional, it is expected. We can even look at other genres or other franchises like City Skylines and even SimCity, like SimCity 1, 2, 3, 4, and whatever that new one was called, 2013, I want to say. Whatever. But you need to have custom content. You need to be able to allow players to modify their games, and you need a platform to share those mods on. And you know, that's a huge detriment to City Skylines 2 right now, is that there isn't a whole lot of asset creation support right now, which is which is kind of not doing it any favors. But yeah, another thing that is important, like another important takeaway from this Life by You experience, I think, is that players are really losing trust in the gaming industry at large, especially with publishers. And if we just look at video games in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like, you wouldn't have microtransactions. You get full game releases, and you get complete games at that. You don't need updates. Like, maybe this is me just being way too nostalgic for the purposes of this video, but there was a certain quality standard that's just not being applied here. And yes, technology gets more complicated, but the integrity does not get complicated. Integrity is actually very simple. And that's where we really get into the whole business dynamics, where maybe you don't have the resources and that you do need to cut corners here and there, and that it might actually be in the best interest of everyone for updates to roll out and all that. And you're more than welcome to have that discussion in the comment section below. But the video game industry has changed, and I want to say it has not changed for the better in those kind of retrospects there. As technology gets more complicated, it also gets more advanced, and that's where the complications can be cut. That is just a personal opinion of mine. Technology should be making things easier, not the other way around. But players are getting more smarter, they're getting more analytical, and also less forgiving, especially within the life simulation gaming community. And I would say, I would really attribute that to just everybody kind of, don't take any offense to this, but I would attribute this to everybody just kind of growing up a little bit here. The Sims 4 is crazy, honestly. Like, that's $1,000 franchise that you're looking at if you are looking to play the entire experience of it. Like the DLC, the brokenness of it, it's just nuts, you guys. And I feel like we're at a point now where the player base for The Sims 4 is growing up, and they are really getting to become aware that The Sims 4 really wasn't all that. And how I would justify that is I'm seeing a lot more activity in like social media with The Sims 3, and a lot of players that are coming back to The Sims 3 for that open world. And now, like, with the way that computers are, and I hope I'm not gonna trigger more updates for The Sims 3, because I just want The Sims 3 to be left alone at this point. But with the way that mods go, and with the different graphics mods that you can apply to your Sims 3 games, you can make it as beautiful as you need. And with the way that computers are built now, they can run that game very easily. Like, yes, I do have a gaming laptop, but it's running this 15-year-old game and really making it its bitch, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. And I've got like a considerable amount, well, not a considerable, I've always been good at, like, okay, I have a decent amount of custom content within my game, and that includes a lot of premium content from the Sims 3 store itself. So yeah, players are getting smarter, and they're finding value in other life simulation games as well. And I think that that's really what's more important. People are comparing like what they're paying versus the value and the enjoyment that they're getting out of it. And I think that that's what's going on here, especially with The Sims 4, because the value, in my opinion, just really isn't there. It's a lot of glitches, and it's like they built a house on a cracked foundation, and they're refusing to fix the foundation, and they're just adding more stories to that house, if I am going to use a metaphor like that. But anyways, I'm not here to really talk about The Sims 4 too much, but I did want to mention it here that I do see that fan base really growing up and actually moving away from that video game. I see that migration. I think that flashy animations and cozy vibes aren't enough anymore. Players are wanting that depth, they want that flexibility, they want that transparency, they want modability, and of course, like, respect. We're paying so much for these video game experiences, and we need those. We need that value, and I think that's another reason why the City Skylines 2 franchise is running into some trouble as well, is because when they released City Skylines 2, it was not in a very good and playable state, and it's taken over a year to fix it and to kind of get that franchise moving. And I feel like players feel very disrespected, and it wouldn't surprise me if players haven't gone back to their games and they're just watching YouTubers. I know that I'm one of those players because I bought the City Skylines 2 thing when it came out, including the Bridges and Piers expansion pack, and here I am a year later and I don't have that expansion pack in my hand. Like, how do you reconcile that? Like, I haven't gone back to the game, not necessarily because I have, like, I've been so turned off by it, but I just haven't had the time. And if I don't have the time to play a video game that I enjoy, I'm not going to choose that video game. Obviously I haven't, because I have been playing The Sims 3 this whole time, really. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. I think I've opened up enough talking points here for you guys. I really started this channel largely because of Life by You way back when I called it Sovereign Gaming. And honestly, Life by You sparked something in me. It made me question, explore, speculate. And while the Life by You project didn't survive, this community did, this YouTube channel did, and I'm very grateful for that. Life by You was flawed heavily from the beginning, but it was ambitious. And for that, it does deserve to be remembered and revered as a project that shows us the potential in certain retrospects as to what a good life simulation video game can accomplish. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Are you hopeful for the next wave of life simulation games, or have you lost faith in the early access concept? And what lessons do you think the industry should take from all of this? And what lessons do you think players should take from all of this? Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy reflective, honest takes on life simulation games and more, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And until next time, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next sandbox.